What if I told you there's a single rancher who owns more land than the entire state of Delaware and brought back a species from the brink of extinction? Ted Turner's 2-million-acre empire isn't just ranching. It's the greatest wildlife comeback story in American history, and what he's accomplished will blow your mind. In 1989, Ted Turner stood on a windswept Montana hillside staring at 113,000 acres of what looked like a moonscape. The grassland was so overgrazed and destroyed that you could walk for miles without seeing a single blade of native grass. The previous owners had nearly killed the land with decades of poor management. Everyone told Turner he was insane to pay $22 million for what amounted to an ecological wasteland. His own advisors begged him to reconsider. Local ranchers laughed at the city slicker who thought he could fix land that had been ruined for generations. But Turner saw something nobody else could see. Standing on that barren hillside, he envisioned something that hadn't existed for over 150 years. Massive herds of American bison thundering across restored prairie grasslands, just like they had before we nearly drove them to extinction. What happened next would become the greatest private conservation success story in American history. The impossible vision that everyone said would fail. Turner's plan was audacious beyond belief. He wanted to buy up struggling cattle ranches across the American West and transform them into something that hadn't existed since the 1800s. A functioning Great Plains ecosystem complete with massive bison herds. The numbers seemed impossible. American bison had been reduced from 60 million animals to fewer than 1,000 by 1890. Most of the remaining animals were in zoos or tiny government herds. The idea of creating large, free-roaming herds seemed like a fantasy. But Turner had something most people didn't: unlimited resources and an unshakable belief that it could be done. Over the next 3 decades, he would spend over $2 billion purchasing ranches across 15 states, creating an empire that now covers more than 2 million acres. Today, Turner's ranches run over 51,000 head of American bison, the largest private herd in the world and roughly 10% of all bison in North America. But the numbers only tell part of the story. The day everything changed, Turner's ranch manager still tells the story of the day they released the first bison onto the Flying D Ranch in Montana. These animals had spent their entire lives in small government pens, never experiencing the freedom their ancestors had known. When the gates opened, the bison just stood there, confused and uncertain. For several minutes, nothing happened. Then one old bull stepped forward, lifted his massive head, and sniffed the Montana air. Something ancient stirred in his memory. Suddenly, he took off running across the prairie. Within seconds, the entire herd was galloping across land their ancestors had roamed 150 years earlier, their hooves creating a sound like thunder that could be heard for miles. Grown cowboys who had worked cattle their entire lives were wiping tears from their eyes. It was the moment Turner knew his impossible dream was going to work. The transformation that NASA could see from space. What happened next defied everything experts thought they knew about land restoration. The bison didn't just survive on Turner's ranches, they began healing the land itself. Unlike cattle, which tend to graze in the same areas repeatedly, bison move constantly across the landscape, following ancient migration patterns encoded in their DNA. Their hooves break up compacted soil, their wallowing creates microhabitats for plants and insects, and their grazing actually stimulates grass growth. The transformation was so dramatic that NASA satellites could track the changes from space. Areas that showed up as brown, barren wasteland in 1990, satellite photos began turning green. Within a decade, grasslands that hadn't existed for over a century were visible from orbit. But here's what really shocked the scientists. The bison weren't just restoring the grass. They were bringing back an entire ecosystem that everyone thought was gone forever. The species that came back from the dead. As the grasslands recovered, something miraculous began happening. Species that hadn't been seen on these lands for generations started returning on their own. Prairie dogs emerged from underground burrows that had been empty for decades. Native birds that had disappeared began nesting again. But Turner wasn't content to wait for nature to heal itself. He launched the most ambitious private species recovery program in American history, focusing on animals that were literally on the verge of extinction. The Mexican gray wolf program almost failed before it started. When Turner began breeding these wolves on his New Mexico ranches, there were fewer than 50 left in the entire world. Disease wiped out entire litters. Genetic problems threatened the bloodline. Turner had already spent millions with nothing to show for it. His advisors told him to quit. The government questioned whether a private citizen should be breeding endangered predators. Environmental groups worried he was playing God with nature. But on a cold February morning in 2008, something miraculous happened. The first healthy wolf pups, born on Turner's ranch in over 50 years, opened their eyes. Today, Turner's ranches have successfully bred and released dozens of Mexican gray wolves back into the wild, playing a crucial role in saving the species from extinction. The ancient giants that time forgot. But the wolf program was nothing compared to what Turner accomplished with the bison tortoise. These ancient reptiles, which can live over 100 years and weigh up to 100 pounds, were down to fewer than 2,500 individuals when Turner began his breeding program. The challenge was enormous. These tortoises take 15 to 20 years to reach sexual maturity, and females only lay eggs every few years. Most experts said it was hopeless. There simply wasn't enough time to save them. Turner proved them wrong. His latter ranch in New Mexico now maintains one of the largest captive populations of bison tortoises in the world. Watching these prehistoric giants lumber across the desert landscape is like stepping back in time 10,000 years. The ranch has successfully bred hundreds of these remarkable animals, ensuring that a species that survived the Ice Age won't disappear on our watch. The restaurant empire built on conservation. But Turner's genius wasn't just in saving species, it was in making conservation profitable. He realized that for his vision to succeed long-term, it had to pay for itself. That's when he created Ted's Montana Grill, a restaurant chain that serves exclusively bison meat from his ranches. The idea seemed crazy at first. Americans had been eating beef for generations. Why would they switch to bison? The answer was simple. Bison meat is significantly healthier than beef. It contains more protein, less fat, and higher levels of beneficial nutrients. It's also produced with far less environmental impact. Since bison are perfectly adapted to grassland environments, the restaurants were an instant success. Today, Ted's Montana Grill operates over 40 locations across the United States and has served millions of customers bison meat, creating a market that helps fund Turner's conservation efforts. It's a perfect example of Turner's business genius. He created a vertically integrated operation that controls every aspect of production from pasture to plate, ensuring quality while generating the revenue needed to support his conservation work. The economic miracle in rural America. Turner's ranch empire has become an economic powerhouse, generating over $100 million annually while providing hundreds of jobs in rural communities across the West. But the economic impact goes far beyond the ranches themselves. In small towns that had been struggling for decades, Turner's operations brought new life. Ranch hands, wildlife biologists, hunting guides, restaurant workers, suddenly There were good-paying jobs in places where opportunities had been scarce. Local suppliers began thriving again, selling millions of dollars worth of feed, fuel, equipment, and services to Turner's operations. Veterinarians, equipment dealers, and other agricultural service providers found new customers across multiple states. The hunting and ecotourism programs brought visitors from around the world to rural areas, supporting local hotels, restaurants, and other businesses. Small communities that had been dying suddenly had a reason to hope again. Property tax payments from Turner's ranches provided significant revenue for local governments, helping fund schools, roads, and other public services in rural counties that had been struggling financially. The scientific revolution hidden in plain sight. What most people don't realize is that Turner's ranches have become some of the most important ecological research sites in North America. Universities and research institutions conduct groundbreaking studies on everything from climate change impacts to wildlife behavior on Turner's properties. The research conducted on these ranches has revolutionized our understanding of grassland ecology and ecosystem restoration. Scientific papers based on research from Turner's properties are published regularly in leading journals, advancing conservation science worldwide. Turner has invested millions of dollars in research infrastructure, including weather monitoring stations, wildlife tracking equipment, and laboratory facilities. This investment supports research that benefits conservation efforts far beyond his own properties. Students and researchers from around the world come to study on Turner's ranches, learning techniques that they take back to their home countries. It's like having a university dedicated to conservation, funded by bison burgers, the technology that tracks every heartbeat. While Turner's ranches emphasize natural management techniques, they also employ cutting-edge technology that would make NASA engineers jealous. GPS collars track bison movements across hundreds of thousands of acres, helping managers understand grazing patterns and habitat use with incredible precision. Each collar costs over $3,000 and can monitor an animal's location, activity levels, and even health status in real time. The system can predict when a bison is about to give birth, detect illness before symptoms appear, and track the complex social dynamics of the herds. Weather monitoring stations across the properties provide real-time data on precipitation, temperature, wind, and other conditions that affect grazing management decisions. This information helps managers optimize grazing rotations and predict forage availability with scientific accuracy. Aerial surveys using aircraft and drones monitor wildlife populations and assess range conditions across vast landscapes. In a single day, these surveys can cover areas that would take ground crews weeks to assess, providing managers with the information they need to make critical decisions about stocking rates and habitat improvements. The predator paradise that shocked scientists. As Turner's grasslands recovered and wildlife populations exploded, something unexpected happened. Predators began returning on their own. Mountain lions, bears, and coyotes started showing up on properties where they hadn't been seen for decades. Instead of viewing predators as a threat, Turner embraced them as a crucial part of the ecosystem. His ranches now support some of the healthiest predator populations in the American West, proving that large ranches can support complete ecosystems, including top predators that require vast territories. The predator recovery has been so successful that Turner's ranches are now used as source populations for reintroduction efforts in other areas. Wolves, mountain lions, and bears from Turner's properties have been relocated to help restore predator populations across the West. Scientists have been amazed by how quickly predator-prey relationships reestablish themselves on Turner's ranches. The presence of predators has actually improved the health of prey populations by removing weak and sick animals, creating a natural selection pressure that strengthens the herds. The water miracle in the desert. Across his 2 million acres, Turner has accomplished something that seems impossible. He's actually increased water availability in some of the most arid regions of the American West. Through careful watershed management and restoration techniques, his ranches now capture and store more water than when he purchased them. Stream restoration projects have brought back native fish populations and improved water quality throughout entire watersheds. These efforts required massive investment. Some projects cost millions of dollars, but they provide benefits that extend far beyond Turner's property boundaries. The ranches maintain hundreds of stock ponds and have restored degraded streams using techniques that mimic natural processes. Instead of fighting the landscape, Turner's managers work with natural water cycles to maximize retention and improve quality. Many of Turner's properties include critical headwater areas that supply water to major river systems. By protecting these watersheds and improving their health, the ranches provide clean water for communities hundreds of miles downstream. The hunting revolution that funds conservation. Turner's hunting programs have revolutionized the relationship between hunters and conservationists. His ranches offer some of the finest hunting experiences in North America, with trophy-quality animals and professional guide services that attract hunters from around the world. But this isn't just about recreation, it's about funding conservation. The hunting programs generate millions of dollars annually that directly support habitat restoration, species recovery, and research efforts. Every hunting license sold helps fund the conservation work that benefits all wildlife. The hunting is carefully managed using scientific principles to ensure sustainable populations while maximizing the conservation benefit. Hunters pay premium prices, sometimes tens of thousands of dollars for a single hunt, because they know they're supporting one of the most successful conservation programs in American history. The success of Turner's hunting programs has changed how many people think about the relationship between hunting and conservation. Instead of being opposed forces, they become partners in the effort to restore America's wildlife heritage. The restaurant chain that changed America's diet. Ted's Montana Grill has done more than just serve bison burgers. It's introduced millions of Americans to a healthier, more sustainable way of eating. The restaurants have served over 50 million bison meals, creating a market that supports not just Turner's conservation efforts, but bison producers across the country. The success of the restaurant chain has helped create an entire industry around bison production. Other ranchers have started raising bison, knowing there's now a reliable market for their meat. This has multiplied the conservation impact far beyond Turner's own ranches. The restaurants also serve an educational function, teaching customers about bison conservation and the ecological benefits of supporting sustainable ranching operations. Every meal becomes a lesson in conservation, spreading awareness about the importance of protecting America's wildlife heritage. The menu features not just bison, but other sustainably produced foods that support conservation efforts. It's a complete philosophy of eating that connects consumers directly to the land and the animals that sustain us, the legacy that will last forever. What Turner has accomplished represents one of the largest private conservation efforts in human history. His ranches have restored ecosystems, saved endangered species, and demonstrated that private landowners can be powerful forces for environmental protection. But perhaps most importantly, Turner has proven that conservation and economic success can go hand in hand. His ranches are profitable businesses that generate significant revenue while healing the land and saving species from extinction. The species he has helped save from extinction, the bison, the wolves, the tortoises, will continue to thrive for generations because of his vision and commitment. The ecosystems he has restored will continue to provide benefits for wildlife and human communities long into the future. Ted Turner's ranch empire proves that one person's vision can literally bring species back from extinction and heal millions of acres of damaged land. From saving the American bison to restoring entire ecosystems, this is conservation on a scale that will inspire you. If you want to see more incredible stories about people who are saving America's wildlife, make sure to subscribe, because what I'm about to show you next will make this look small by comparison.